In this week's video, we are going to discuss the conversion process from the beginning till the very end. The first thing that you would need to do to start your conversion as an Orthodox Jew is you will have to approach a rabbi. Now, a rabbi can be found at any Hebrew congregation or synagogue. You'll have to contact the synagogue and arrange an appointment with a rabbi. Once you meet with this rabbi, the rabbi will ask you, why do you want to convert? Because, as discussed, you do not have to be Jewish to have a share in the world to come. As long as you are a righteous Gentile, you do have a share in the world to come. So before meeting this rabbi, you must be very sure that you do want to convert. Another thing that happens in many Jewish communities is the rabbi must reject you 3 times. Now, this is not always done. It wasn't done with me, for example. But normally, if they are not sure if you really want to convert, they will reject you 3 times to test your sincerity. After the rabbi is happy that you are ready to start your conversion process, he would most likely recommend some reading material for you beforehand so that you know what you are getting yourself into. One of the first books most Beit Din would recommend is To Be a Jew. Now, this book gives you a very wide overview of Judaism in general. Normally, they would also recommend another book, Shayel. This is normally once you're already accepted into the program and you're starting to study. And in most Orthodox synagogues and conversion processes, this will be the book that you will be learning from. This basically gives you the Jewish law in a very broad sense, and it doesn't go in too much detail, but it is enough for you to keep the 613 commandments that all Jews should keep. Now that you have joined the shul, you will be starting to learn with the rabbi. Some communities do not have the resources or the rabbis available to learn with every single convert that's out there. And then they establish groups of converts that you can learn in. In Cape Town, for example, we have currently 2 groups of converts. You could also still learn with a rabbi if a rabbi has the time to sit and learn with you. There is quite a lot to learn, and a lot of the studying must be done by you. What I've done is, while I was studying, I was making notes of questions I had in the books that I was reading or the material that I was studying, so that I could check in with my rabbi and get some clarity around those points. Once you have proven that you are really dedicated to this process, maybe you come to shul every day, you're davening every day, you're there every Shabbat, you're there every festival, the rabbis will see that you are really a sincere convert. They will then start to get in touch with you through an intermediary rabbi that you normally meet before you ever meet the Beit Din. This rabbi is almost like a gatekeeper of the Beit Din. He must make sure that you know enough to meet the Beit Din. The Beit Din is normally 3 rabbis. It's normally senior rabbis that is very busy. And thus they can't meet with each and every convert in the beginning of the process. Once you are ready, however, and you have passed the gatekeeper, you will meet the Beit Din. So let's discuss this gatekeeper. The gatekeeper is a rabbi that is in charge of the conversion program for the Beit Din that you have joined. Now, in South Africa, for example, there's 2 Beit Dins. There's one in Joburg and there's one in Cape Town. So each Beit Din operates differently, and each one has a different gatekeeper. in Cape Town, for example, the gatekeeping rabbi that you meet him every 4 months. In those sessions, it can be very challenging and very frustrating. Normally, he asks you quite a lot of technical questions about halakha. What do you do when you wake up? Let's say you are praying shacharit or mincha and you come late for davening. What should you include in your prayers? What should you not include? The Shema, for example. What brachot do you say before you eat a banana or before you eat an apple? Or what bracha do you say before you drink coffee or water? There's quite a lot to learn. This rabbi, gatekeeping rabbi, must make sure that you know enough before he can put you in front of the Beit Din. Normally, he would tell you after he's met with you that he would see you in another 4 months. That basically means that you do not yet know enough for him to recommend you for conversion with the Beit Din. You have finally made it past the gatekeeper. You had an interview with this rabbi and he asked you a lot of questions on halakha, Jewish belief, kashrut, Shabbat, and you, Baruch Hashem, knew it all, or most of it. Now he's happy and feels confident that you could meet the Beit Din. An appointment will then be set up with the Beit Din. You would normally have to make a date and a time where these 3 rabbis will come down to meet you. When you meet the Beit Din, they will assess if you are ready to become a full halachic Jew. They will ask you very similar questions to what this gatekeeping rabbi asked you. So if you are already by that time living a Jewish life, you're already keeping kosher, you're keeping Shabbat, you know all the brachot, you know most of the halakha. There's quite a lot of halakha to learn, but you know more or less how to live a Jewish life. Then the Beit Din is not that difficult. I'll use myself again as an example. I met with this gatekeeping rabbi quite a few times. And once he was happy with me and my rabbi was happy with me, they said that I should meet the Beit Din. They assembled the Beit Din and I met with them. They asked me a few questions, very similar, like I said, to the previous rabbi. I actually found it a little bit easier. They asked me to read in Hebrew, something that I read every day. I chose the Amidah because I'm obviously davening every day. And then they open up the Siddur, which you should know pretty well, at a random spot, and then they ask you to read the Hebrew. But what is this fascination with the Hebrew? It is because everything in the synagogue is done in Hebrew. All the prayers are in Hebrew. If you say Kiddush on a Friday evening, you need to say it in Hebrew. So Hebrew is very important. Now they don't expect you to know Hebrew as well as they do, but you must have some level of competency in Hebrew. The other question that they ask you quite a lot about is the Jewish calendar. Now everything in Jewish life runs on this calendar. So it is very important that you know all the months of the Jewish year and what festivals and fasts falls into this calendar and how they fit in Jewish life. In some festivals you can do work or malacha. In other festivals you cannot. So it is very important to know the Jewish calendar, and they ask quite a lot of questions about the Jewish calendar. The other questions they ask is about kashrut. How do you keep kosher? What do you do at work? Do you take food there? How do you warm the food up? There's quite a few things to learn within kashrut. And I am planning to make more information videos about keeping kosher. The last thing that they normally ask you about is Shabbat. Now, Shabbat is the cornerstone of Jewish life. It is the covenant with the Jewish people. It is mentioned 12 times in the Torah, and it is critical that you keep Shabbat. Now, Shabbat is not that difficult to keep. I will be making information videos about the 39 restrictions of Shabbat that you can listen to. It's from another rabbi, and that is basically how I learned the laws of Shabbat. You have met the Beit Din. The Beit Din has asked you tons of questions. The Beit Din will normally ask you to go out of the room for a few minutes while they discuss you by themselves to see if you are ready to be a full halachic Jew. Now, one of the other requirements that is critical is that you need to stay within the Jewish community, in walking distance of an Orthodox shul. To keep Shabbat fully, you cannot drive at all. So you would need to walk to a synagogue. If you do not stay in a Jewish community, the chances of them approving you for conversion is very low. I do know of some people that has done it, but then there must be some commitment that you would be staying within the Jewish community every Shabbat. So someone must be hosting you. The same applies for festivals. So the sooner you can move to a Jewish community within walking distance to a synagogue, the better and the easier it will be for you. After the Beit Din has deliberated and see if you can become a full halachic Orthodox Jew, they will call you back in. Now, I've heard from some converts that they didn't pass the Beit Din. The Beit Din will then tell you that they feel that you are not yet ready. That normally means that you have some weaknesses within your learning. Maybe you're not so good on halakha. Maybe you're not so good on Shabbat. Maybe you don't stay in a Jewish community yet. Maybe you didn't do well on the questions on the festivals. Maybe you didn't know all the fasts, or you didn't know the Jewish calendar. There could be various reasons. They will normally tell you what you need to focus on, and then they will tell you, they will see you in another 4 months, 3 months, whatever they decide. I will use my case, for example, again. So when I met the Beit Din, I was already 6 years in the process. So I did study quite a lot, and Baruch Hashem, I got everything right. And they accepted me for conversion. So what happens after this stage? Well, as you would know, there is a fee for conversion. Now, the money side of the conversion, many people don't like to talk about. But you must understand that these rabbis do need an income. And they spend quite a lot of time with converts, learning with them, setting up this gatekeeping rabbi. The Beit Din needs to meet with you. So there is quite a lot of time spent with converts, and obviously they need to get paid for this time. Before you get your date for your mikveh or your bris, you would need to pay all the money that you owe the Beit Din up front. After you have done this, and you are a guy, if you have not been medically circumcised, they will tell you to get circumcised first. After you have healed, which normally takes about 30 days, they will arrange a mikveh date for you. If you have already been medically circumcised, as I have done, they need to draw a drop of blood. This will be on the same day as the date of your mikveh. If you are a woman, you don't need a bris, so you will just get a mikveh date. Before you go into the mikveh, you will need to make a declaration before this ad hoc Beit Din. declaring that you would keep all the mitzvot that you know and all the mitzvot that you do not yet know, but that you will learn in the future, and that you will keep it fully to the best of your abilities. You will normally sign this declaration after making it public in front of this ad hoc Beit Din. After you've done this, you will sign your conversion certificate. Most Beit Din keep the certificate for a full year to ensure that you will actually keep all the mitzvot. If you, for example, just after becoming Jewish, rising from the mikveh, go and eat a burger at McDonald's that's not kosher, and they see you, they will cancel your conversion. This is halachically a little bit problematic, but they let you sign another form that says that they can cancel your conversion if you do not keep mitzvot. I didn't much like that, but if you are going to be a full halachic Jew, you're anyway going to keep the mitzvot, so you might as well sign the paper and just keep the mitzvot. What do you need to bring for this final stage, the mikveh? It depends on the mikveh you're going to. Most people just need to bring towels. For women, it is slightly different, and they will normally get like a robe that they wear. Because of modesty issues, they need to wear something that is quite loose when they go into the water. The Beit Din needs to see you going completely under the water and coming back up. For women, there's normally an attendant that's also there, which is a female, to check that your hair is also completely submerged in the mikveh. What happens at this mikveh? At the mikveh, there is 3 rabbis that make an ad hoc Beit Din. They need to see you going into the water, walking in, dipping down, coming up. Then you say the bracha, which is Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu mitzvah v'tzivanu al tefillah. Then you go down again, and then you come up, and then you are Jewish. If you were already medically circumcised, just before you go to the mikvah, they will take a scalpel blade and they will make a small cut on your member. They must draw a little bit of blood. There's surprisingly very little blood. I was quite shocked. And then right after that, you go into the mikveh. After you come out of the mikveh, you are a full halachic Jew. I hope you have found this video informative. Subscribe to my channel for more information, especially in regards to Shabbat and kosher, which I will be posting in the near future. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you have a great week. Shavua Tov and Chodesh Tov.
הלל השם אלוקים והגדלנו בתודה. הלל השם אלוקים והגדלנו בתודה. י' ו' השם אלוקינו השם אחד. י' ו' השם אלוקינו השם אחד. השם מלך, השם מלך, השם ימלוך לעולם ועד. השם מלך, השם מלך, השם ימלוך לעולם ועד. השם מלך, השם מלך, השם